Now then, how you doing? I hope you're well. Oh, the joy! It finally snowed here in North Yorkshire. Well, it seemed like everywhere else in the country was getting it except us. And then the snow fell. Well, needless to say, I couldn't wait to get out in it. 2 days running, in fact. So you're going to see two very different moods in this video. On the first day, it was still snowing, quite heavily in fact. This meant visibility was very much reduced, but I rather like that because it also means the landscape is massively simplified. Well, on the second day, however, it was different again. The snow had stopped falling and the sun came out, which meant conditions for walking out in it were about as perfect as you can get. When the snow is on the ground, you have to take advantage while you can. It can be gone as quickly as it arrived. I decided a good local target would be Beacon Hill up behind where I live, and yes, it does have a beacon. Here's how I got on, along with a handful of snow related watercolour tips. I love snow, me. One thing that snow does very well is to desaturate colours and turn the world into black and white. From a watercolour point of view, this makes life very easy for the artist, encouraging us to interpret a scene using only one or two colours. My favourite combination for this is French ultramarine and burnt umber. Other combinations are available, of course. It's all a matter of personal preference, and if you're not sure which works best for you, then I recommend spending an afternoon experimenting with all the colours in your paint box. Even better, use it as an opportunity to try mixing together paints that you've hardly ever used. Waste not, want not, and all that. In this example, you can see that even with only two colours, I can still manage to achieve a high degree of variation. Adding more French ultramarine to the mix makes it bluer, while those lovely earthy colours you see are made just by adding extra burnt umber. I'm also varying the intensity of the mix by modifying the balance between paint and water. Adding more water to it dilutes it and makes it lighter, while adding more pigment to the mix makes it richer and darker. So, even in this relatively simple scene, there's a lot going on tonally. By keeping the background details lighter, it helps to push them back, and they're less likely to clash or compete with foreground elements. Breaking a scene down to its basic components is something we need to do all the time in watercolour to make it manageable. When the scene in question is a snow scene, then that job of reduction is already half done for us. On this first trip out, the snow was still falling heavily, which seemed quite tough on the poor old sheep. I think they were hoping I was there to serve them their dinner. Sorry guys, I'm not your man. In fact, by this point I was heading home, thinking about my own dinner and a warm house, maybe a hot shower. The next day the sun was out and it was glorious, so I headed out again. Sunlight means a bit of colour, blue skies and winter grasses. But it also means shadows, a crucial element in watercolour snow scenes because they help to explain the contours of the snow. Let's take a simple example. This is a post. If it's casting a shadow that looks straight, like this, then what it's telling me is that the ground upon which it's falling must be flat. Here's another post. This time though, I'm going to apply a shadow that curves. It curves because it's following the contours of the ground and in its own way is actually visually explaining those contours. While we're at it, here are a couple of bonus shadow related tips. If I paint my shadows in from the base of the posts while the post colour is still damp, then it'll draw out some of that dark tone and help to create a subtle gradient. Generally speaking, shadows often vary in their intensity. This is an easy way of achieving that. Another thing worth noting about shadows is that you're not limited to applying shadows of objects visible within the frame. It's perfectly okay to bring in shadows from objects that we can't see, which can be great for creating a dark foreground leading the eye in towards the light, or for giving interest to an area that we don't know what else to do with. If, like me, you're a bit of a purist and prefer to avoid using white paint in your work and find masking things out to be a bit of a chore, then I recommend always having a craft knife to hand so that you can scratch out a few extra snowy branches. It isn't far to Beacon Hill, a couple of miles at the most, but it is mostly uphill, and with several inches of thick snow on the ground, it made the going quite tough. But it was beautiful. Things do have a tendency to look different in the snow, which serves to remind us that tone is relative. It's worth keeping an eye out for unexpected tonal inversions such as these sheep, which we generally think of as being light in tone, but here they clearly appear dark in their wintry surroundings. Well, that's Beacon Hill just up there. It's easy to spot because it has a beacon on it. And this is me making my last push to the top. Edmund Hillary, eat your heart out. Beacon Hill isn't particularly high, but it is high enough to see for many miles in all directions. Way over there are the North York moors with snow on the tops, and down below I can see the rooftops of Richmond. The tower belongs to the castle. Well, here's a final thought. As I've already mentioned, unless you're thinking of a wintry sunset, snow scenes can be somewhat lacking in colour. Or are they? Look closer. If you want to introduce a spot of colour, it's easy enough to do so. On this walk, for example, I saw red berries, a bullfinch, and a red tractor. All potentially good, warm, vibrant additions to a cold winter scene. Others might be a red letterbox, or a phone box, or a dead body, perhaps. It's cold out there. There'll be casualties. I don't know. Use your imagination. Well, I hope you enjoyed that and that you may have had a bit of snow where you are. Maybe even had a chance to get out there and have a walk in it yourself. Go steady though. You don't want to become a casualty on the ice. Well, if you're interested in diving into the full, uncut, non-time-lapsed versions of the two paintings featured in this video, then I'm pleased to say that they will be available along with a step-by-step guide to painting them yourself, should you wish. But these and hundreds of other similar projects are available to all subscribers of my online tuition service, which starts at a mere £9 per month. Well, full details of how to subscribe to that can be found in the description below. Until next time, take care.